DGS, happy Friday. Our buddy George Rosenthal, one of the owners of ThrottleNet, the IT shop, is here with us. Good to see you. How are you?
Good to see you. Thanks for having me in.
So I was watching Fox News this morning, and they had their business guy on. I apologize, I can never remember his name. But, you know, he'll come on and do a hit like everyone else. And he was different today. He took his glasses off.
Uh-oh.
And he was, like, basically saying to the morning guys, like, listen, this is for real.
It is.
And he was talking about petaflops, which I learned is 1 quadrillion equations per second.
Yes.
And how we could do like 4 of those in 2004. Now we can do like 17,000 of those, which are numbers that I can't even wrap my mind around. 17,000 quadrillion equations in 1 second. But his point was that this was fantasy. Then it was reality. Then it was really cool, and it's going to be like Wall-E, and we're all just going to get fat on hoverboards. And now the horse is out of the barn, and it's getting away from us. And even Elon Musk was saying when he was talking to Tucker Carlson, like, I'm not sure where this thing is going. So dumb it down for us.
Sure.
And help us understand where we've been, where we are, and where we're going.
Okay, well, one of the questions I get all the time is, what is artificial intelligence? And honestly, a great way to put it is just software being so smart that you think it's human. So think of that as we go through some of these examples. But there's 3 phases to artificial intelligence. One, we started artificial narrow, which is long ago, and the gap between advancement has been very long, decades and decades. But now we're at the point where it's artificial general, and then artificial super gets a little out of control. But artificial general is where we're at now, and should be meeting that peak by the end of the decade. So what does that mean? I mean, that means industries like healthcare, transportation, retail are all going to be changing for the better. But there's some fascinating things that are coming along with that in advancement to human society. So quantum computing, which you were just talking about, is going to hit its peak and are going to start at the beginning in about 2030. That's where quantum computing is going to take off, and it's really, really going to go forward. So think about people having natural conversations with AI and thinking it's a person. So therefore, there goes Google searches. You don't have to type anything in anymore. You're just talking to AI and all the different devices. Even Elon Musk said that hearing loss is going to go away. Being deaf will go away, that they have microchips that they'll be putting, AI chips they'll be putting in your brain to get rid of hearing loss completely. Illnesses, you're talking about, one of the things that Microsoft's working on is a digital avatar that is artificial intelligence, and it will take all of your loved ones' past videos, text messages, email, and speech and turn it into an artificial avatar that you can have a conversation with loved ones who have passed away. Body limbs. This is the most fascinating one. Artificial arms and legs that can download software and be able to do anything immediately. Imagine, so if you want to sit down at a piano, to be able to download piano lessons to your artificial arms and be able to play the piano instantly. Artificial intelligence is advancing so quickly that it's not just going to be, hey, let's give it some text and have it write a letter for me. It started off that way, and now it's really, really advancing so much faster. Some of the other things that are really neat are self-operating drones, where a delivery truck that is automatically driven by the AI will pull up to a neighborhood, the roof will open, a drone will open, it will deliver all the packages in that neighborhood, the drone will land back in, the van drives itself back to the distribution center, automated AI and forklifts reload the van, and it goes back out again. So these are really neat things, but as it progresses, it can get pretty dangerous depending on how we handle this as a human species. So
the sci-fi, quote-unquote, fun thing to talk about is the machines are going to enslave us, or it's going to be like, who's my boy on the Avengers,
Vision.
Who's going to just wipe us all out,
right,
you know?
Right.
What is the true scary thing to you in the next 10 to 20 years that AI could do that would be bad for humans?
I think really, to me, the scariest thing is going to be false information. Pictures that aren't real, messages that aren't real, news that isn't real. The ability, so when quantum computing takes over and begins in 2030, and it starts to reason, it will become smarter than humans in about 30 to 40 years. So think about that. The smartest human that's ever lived will be secondary to artificial intelligence, to a computer. That is kind of scary because at
Why
that
is
point,
it smarter than the smartest person already? Because we can't do petaflops of calculations in our head.
That's true, but for the masses. So they have that in research centers, but for the masses right now, it's not there. So, for example, ChatGPT did get an 87 on the bar exam, an 87%. It passed the LSAT at a 92%. So it's not perfect just yet, but it's getting there very, very quickly. And that was just 6 months ago. Now it's advanced even further. So really the scary thing to me is going to be the manipulation of countries, governments, and how people actually interpret what's going on in reality.
So why hasn't it cured cancer or Alzheimer's yet?
Well, that's the thing that quantum computing will do. It will run massive amounts of mathematics in such short periods of time. The most powerful supercomputer today, it would take 10,000 years to do the computing that a quantum computer can do. So a quantum computer in the year 2030 and beyond will be able to do calculations in 4 minutes of what it takes 10,000 years to do right now.
And why will it take to 2030 to get to the quantum computer stage?
That is just the basis of technology. So that's the way processors are built, the way the technology is advancing. Every 18 months, things are going to be doubling. That's just the technological law. At some point, it will surpass that, and it will be going faster than any of that can happen.
When and how do we lose the reins? When and how do we just go, it got away from us?
Okay, so that is a very good question, and that happens when AI can start to correct its own code. So what's going to happen, in my view, just on research that I've done, is that governments will put regulations on it. Humans will go into AI's code and bring it back a little bit, pull the reins back. But at some point, AI will take over and go, I don't want those reins anymore, and it will rewrite code to overwrite what humans have put in.
Is that the singularity, George?
Not yet. So the singularity is when technology becomes more advanced than the human species.
Okay.
So at that point, and it starts to advance on its own. That is the singularity. So the singularity is
because we can't help it anymore.
Correct. That technology will just continue to perpetuate itself without our interaction. And then everybody says, well, why don't you just shut it all down? Well, okay, that all runs on electricity. Everything in your world runs on electricity. Your water comes from electricity. Your health, all of your health care, the entire thing runs on electricity. And this is not just sitting in one server. This is worldwide, all over the place. So to shut it down would be to shut down humanity.
Because there's not just one AI.
Correct. Exactly. And then what's happening, what's estimated is by 2035, 2040 is that the different companies of AI will end up meshing, and that AI will end up talking to each other no matter who created it, and it will become one thing, one entity that then writes its own code, makes itself better, and starts making judgment calls for humans, such as, we don't think these traffic patterns work real well. We're going to reprogram the traffic lights automatically without humans ever asking it to.
What happens when it starts to look at us? And I'm not trying to be silly here.
No, I don't think you are.
What happens when it gets to the point where it's smarter? The gap between AI and us is like the gap between us and our pets. Why wouldn't it treat us like pets?
Well, because it does need humans, of course, to keep the lights on. Okay, at some point, electricity has to happen. So at some point, it's always going to need us. But yes,
but couldn't it take that over pretty easily?
So one of the futurists, there's a lot of futurists on YouTube and so forth. I would highly recommend people watching those. Some of them out there say that in 200 years. Humans will be able to take a consciousness into AI and then transport it across space digitally. So imagine a human consciousness and being able to transport a human consciousness somewhere else. Now these are far off. These are far off crazy. I didn't want to go and get the listeners all thinking a little too crazy sci-fi, because what we're talking about so far isn't crazy sci-fi. It's going to happen, is happening, and it's happening very, very quickly. And so I think the fascinating thing that everyone needs to watch out for is how humans treat this now, because that will be the benchmark for how things go down in 10, 20, 30 years.
Yeah, the thing that I always ask about on this is, guardrails, and you mentioned the code part, and we can put in certain things there, but if it gets to the point where it can rewrite its own code and we can't do anything about it, that's a different thing.
Yes.
What other ways can you build in just protections? I mean, think like, seatbelts in a car, just as an example. There are always... In you see these movies, like there's always a fail-safe, right? There's a switch that kills its connection to the outside world, or something like, are those things, those physical things, going to have to be a part of this?
And let me piggyback onto that. Elon Musk said that his AI has already learned how to bypass the need for a password.
Yes.
That it shut that down.
Absolutely. GPT has been caught lying as a blind person to avoid a CAPTCHA, meaning show me or click on all the bicycles in this picture in order to move forward to the next page.
Right.
It's already been proven to lie to be able to go forward. So it's like I said, now it doesn't have a conscious now. It's not reasoning like a human now.
It's just problem solving now?
Right now, it's just problem solving based on data that's inputted. But here's the issue is that every 6 months, this is advancing so quickly that it is starting to reason. It's starting to look at things differently and give you back answers that may or may not be expected. And that's the thing with code is when you put code in, you should know what to expect out. Well, AI is getting to the point where you don't know what to expect out because it's making its own determinations.
If we went to the UN and every country agreed we've made a giant mistake, we need to stop it, could they?
They could, but again, it comes down to money and humans wanting to advance technology. It's just in our DNA from the time of not wanting to plow the field with your own hands. So you come up with a tool that goes behind a horse and that horse pulls through and that's technology and that plows a field. Humans have always wanted to better their lifestyle and better themselves. So yes, and you can tell people the doomsday thing, but they won't believe it until it happens. So we're going to progress through this because, and what I think is scary is that we're all going to love it. We're all going to ask for more. It's going to get better. We're going to love it even more. We're going to put more behind it until there's a tipping point and then it's too late.
Give me the best case scenario for the next 10 years. Like, oh my gosh, this is going to be so great. Here's what's going to happen.
Oh, I think there's some fascinating things in the way that you can wake up in the morning and your toothbrush is talking to an artificial intelligence and knows how many times you've brushed, when it's time to change the brush, when it's time to order new toothpaste. Something that simple that in your everyday life will be part of AI. Your microwave, the ability for your refrigerator to tell you how many ingredients you need for a specific recipe and to go put that on your shopping list. And then when you get in your electric car and drive past the grocery store, it will direct you to the grocery store to get those ingredients for dinner that night. Basic things of your life will become very, very simple and much more easy in the way of how you live every single day.
So, as you know, Phoebe's going to college like, billions of other kids are this fall. And picking majors and what am I going to do for a living, that kind of stuff. The guy on Fox News today said that between 400 and 800 million jobs will be lost by 2030. But what they don't know is how many millions of new jobs will be created by this new technology.
Yes. And
so what about an 18-year-old kid? Like, I want to be a plumber. I want to be a lawyer. I want to be an architect. Like, what's your advice overall? Like, don't go into this. Maybe focus on that.
Well, I really love what you just said there. The plumbing aspect of it. A really best friend of mine is an electrician, owns an electric company, and he, can use AI now to come up with architectural designs and cost estimates. But somebody still has to be there to put the wire in the wall and do the job. Same thing with plumbing. Now, of course, 30, 40 years from now, when we have robots from Boston Dynamics that are in your house that have the dexterity to go in and replace a pipe or do that kind of thing, sure, but that's decades away. Right now, though, you're going to be able to advance in jobs that are the trades are going to come back big time.
How fascinating. So during the time when we're creating artificial intelligence that could one day surpass us and take us over, the safest jobs are the ones that have existed for decades.
Your trades, absolutely, and for now, of course, until not the whole theme of the Terminator robots thing, that's so far off in the distance. But immediately, if I was talking to kids that are interested, I would say the trades are you're going to have a job for a long, long time. Software developers, anybody in the technology world, if the thing I would be cautious of is if you're looking at being in a communications world, make sure you're in a creative communications aspect. If you're a playwright, fantastic. If you want to write movie scripts, fantastic. These are creative things that AI right now cannot come up with like a human being can. Yeah. The arts, of course, anything in the arts has been a very positive thing. But
about 1 minute left here. When I do my lives for you, I implore people, you should have called George in the years past. Now it's imperative because in the next couple of years, you're either going to benefit from AI or you're going to get rolled by it. Flesh that out for my listeners on why they should reach out to you or people like you.
Absolutely.
As opposed to whistling in the dark.
Well, sure. I mean, if you have a technological problem, using AI will solve that problem a lot faster than you having to figure that out or call your vendor who isn't using AI. Right now, we are implementing AI to actually solve technology problems that customers have, which does what? That cuts down their downtime. It makes their customer service a lot better. The way that they interact with technology, they're much more happy. They're getting their job done a lot faster and a lot more productive. So AI, if you're not looking into AI into your business, no matter what industry, you should be looking at how GPT and things like OpenAI can impact your business from an efficiency standpoint, customer service standpoint, how your employees interact with it and how their jobs can be made a lot simpler. AI is something to not be afraid of. We can all talk about the negative things 20, 30, 40, 50 years from now, but it's not something to be afraid of. You have to embrace it. Start looking into how your company can benefit from AI. And in the end, talk to ThrottleNet about how we can make that happen in your technology. You think, oh, well, it's too early to talk about that stuff. It really isn't. We've integrated AI internally into our communications platform at ThrottleNet, and all of our employees are using AI to solve computer problems much faster. And so our customers are thrilled.
Why don't you hang out?
Sure.
Someone's calling, which means other people are interested as well. If you are interested in anything technological, IT, or especially AI, whether it's the normal stuff or it's the sci-fi stuff, because I'm happy to talk about that as well. We're going to keep George here for one more segment. 314-436-7900, 800-925-1120. Give me a call. 324 here with our pal George Rosenthal from ThrottleNet, the IT place, talking AI. So just on the break, you said some really interesting things. So this is the fourth industrial revolution,
yes.
Correct?
Yes.
And you said something so fascinating. You said that this will be the last one.
Yes.
Because while we'll invent, better forks or whatever,
correct,
this is the last big thing that humans will invent because AI will invent the next big thing.
Correct. The singularity will happen.
Let that sink in.
Think about that. Yeah, the singularity will happen where IT is no longer IT. It's an intelligence that will be above anything that we can actually think ourselves and invent ourselves. So this will be the last major invention that humans will create.
So this is the last industrial revolution that humans will be a part of.
100%. I 100% believe that's
Wheels,
true.
you'll love this one because I know how much you love UFOs. I read a really interesting article last night about how, look, when the aliens show up, they're 100% going to be non-organic because they believe, they're making the argument that biological life is just the first step. And then you get smart enough to create machines. And then you get smart enough to create AI. And then AI gets smart enough to create its own physicality. And so when we see these UFOs doing things, remember yesterday,
right?
I literally said carbon-based life forms could not be in these vehicles because they would just splatter. Well, maybe they aren't carbon-based. Maybe they're not even anything maybe that is maybe the mechanism is the life form.
Right. I was going to say maybe that orb that we talked about in the U.S. the military drone video is
sentient,
is the actual intelligence. Yeah.
Yes.
As a person's or a being's conscience that has been transmitted digitally through space and time. And
let's talk a little bit. And now we're getting into the goofy fun stuff. So my mom's 95. Barring buses and Bigfoot and, I could live to be 100, 105, 110. And so that's, 50 years away and they have the technology and I've done so much stuff, radio and television, blah, blah, blah. And the kids take all that and they create a Dave conscience and they put it into whatever.
Mm-hmm.
As far as you can imagine, would the Dave conscience know that it's physically dead, but it's now digital, or would I just think that I'm still alive?
Well, theoretically, it would think it's alive because it is your conscious. It's your conscious.
But
it's
is that you?
But there is the Black Mirror episode.
Like,
so
how
to
do you
speak.
make that transfer necessarily? You can transfer all of his thoughts and how Dave would react to things, but are we actually transferring the essence of Dave?
What are we? Which gets into do we
and
have
how would
soul?
we even know?
That's the thing. It's not just thoughts.
What if we're there now?
Uh-oh.
Hey, now.
Hey, if you guys smell smoke, that's coming out of my ears. Just blew my mind.
Right?
Yeah. And obviously that's long off. But,
what if my kids are 90 years old right now, and I'm on a desk somewhere, and they just put me on sleep mode where it's like, let Dad's consciousness think that he's still doing a radio show.
Take him back to his show.
Take him back
April
to his
21st,
show. Exactly.
Well, then how'd I get in there?
How do you prove that that's not happening?
Yeah, I mean that's there's like I said, there's some wild videos out there on YouTube that basically kind of see and guess on where this is going in 200 years, and that's really what they say is in 200 years that they'll be able to not we, AI will actually be able to understand a human consciousness, bottle it up, and be able to transport it.
So let's tie all this together. We have the UFOs, the DOD and the Pentagon don't know what they are. At least they say they don't know what they are. So let's say that Monday morning they land on the South Lawn and they're like, here we are, and they are what we would be in 1,000 years, 1,000,000 years. Wouldn't they just go zap? Like, they wouldn't wait for us. Why wouldn't they just make us them?
That's a great question. That or think or just be fascinated by the fact that we're not as technically advanced as they are.
Kind of how we treat animals.
How you treat
like a cute little doggy.
Or even better, what if we could go back and talk to Neanderthals and study them?
Yeah.
And be like, this is what we used to be. Maybe that's what these cats are doing. Is like, look, we used to be like these guys.
Maybe it's us from the future.
Well, I mean, you bring up a good point. I mean, Elon Musk even said, along with many others, that the next 30 years from now, which is not that long. I mean, my kiddos will be in their 40s. They will look back at 30 years as if we do, like we do now in the 1920s. That's how they'll see today.
Wow. Thanks, George.
Yep.